Alright, hello YouTubes. I'm babysitting tonight. The wife and mother-in-law went to have dinner with an old friend that they grew up with. And so now I'm stuck with little Miss Fussy Britches. Oh, she's being pretty good. Yeah, I could go on and on about the whole pregnancy and birth. Hopefully I'll get to someday, but overall I feel just like we were so blessed with every aspect of it that it's almost like I shouldn't even talk about it, because I feel like I'd be bragging about how smooth of a time we had. Because basically our parenting philosophy, when we learned that we were going to have a child, me and my wife Autumn, was just don't panic. Um, don't worry about anything that's out of our control. Everything's in God's hands. And really, because really we were really like, the cortisol and the panic and the adrenaline that just comes from worry and stress, we were just like automatically, and my wife was such a champion about just, if it's out of our control, don't worry about it. It's bad for the baby. We just instinctually felt like, while there's a baby inside you, just relax. Lay everything at God's feet. Wake up every morning, try to do everything right. And that's what we did with you. And guess what? Even after you came out, that pretty much is the same philosophy, even though you're not symbiotically connected anymore. She can definitely pick up on when we're stressed and worried about stuff. But if in the back, like, imagine being in utero inside someone that always knows that God is in control, and ultimately nothing happens outside of His will. As opposed to being inside someone who's just like, no idea why they're here, no idea what's going on earth, no idea how they're going to provide for a child. A whole different experience in utero. But just because they're born doesn't mean you can stop. You still have to just, that's how you survive not worrying about it. You either have to just be like, nothing matters at all, so if something happens to my child, nothing matters in the first place. Or you have to accept that everything that matters only matters because of the will of God. And that's how you're able to be okay with anything happening. You've laid everything at His feet already. So that's where we're at with her, and she's just eating and drinking and pooping and sleeping. But anyway, subject of the video. Beartaria and unauthorized.com. I finally, a few months ago, well this summer, I subscribed to unauthorized TV on my smartphone. And guess what? It's way better than YouTube. Even if it just had Owen Benjamin and Vox Day, it would be way better than YouTube. But it's got a lot more stuff. It's just a much easier way to listen, because you just do the stream audio if you're doing something. Turn your phone off. Very little data. It just works out perfectly. And it's cheap. And YouTube has reached a new level of ridiculousness. I think YouTube, it's all TikTok now. It's all nonsense. It's about your attention span. It's not about providing any kind of content anymore. And there's a few like mudslide channels I keep up with. There's a guy called Static in the Attic, who seems to be an honest fellow living on his own. John Levy, a little bit a little bit morose, a bit like Eeyore, but he does put some pretty compelling videos together between the footage he's got, the music, and then his monotone narration. And then there's a guy, Martin Liedtke, Flat Earth British. He does live streams, and he covers a lot of good stuff. All that like antiquitech, alternative tech. I mean, he dives deep, and it's really good speculation, but it kind of gets a bit repetitive. Anyway, I like those guys, but none of them hold a candle, and that's the only thing remotely interesting on YouTube. None of it holds a candle to unauthorized, and so I've really been enjoying that. And I just wanted to tell you the time, because Owen's live stream is it's pure community. That's the whole purpose of it. The music, the philosophy, the comedy, that's all just added. That's all just gravy. But the whole thing, the whole project, the whole reason that he does it is community. And but there's a lot of good comedy. And I wanted to say the time that made me laugh out loud. It was a good episode. He was going on about his dad and just about the nature of narcissists and that type of personality that he grew up with. And he was talking about the thin walls in his house and having to hear his dad go into the bathroom right on the other side of the wall. And that just brought up a lot of memories because, you know, we had 7 kids in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. But anyway, the upstairs was 2 bedrooms. There was 2 boys and 4 girls in the other bedroom and 1 bathroom between us. So, a lot of bathroom noises. But it was just so hilarious with Owen talking about hearing his dad moaning and feeling sorry for himself while he was having diarrhea. Like, all I can imagine is, like, picture the movie of Owen's life, and it's the very beginning, and he's having this dream, and this angel fairy's telling him about his destiny, about going on and being the Bard King and building Beartaria, and it just keeps building, glorious and glorious, and then suddenly breaking in on the dream. It's just like that's funny. That's just so funny, just the contrast of that. And I lived through that many a times. Many of my dreams were broken up by my family members' flatulence. But yes, when the movie of Owen's life gets made, that scene's definitely got to be in it. What else? Beartaria, the bear campground in Missouri. Better believe I was excited about that when I heard it, because I'm in Arkansas. And, you know, I don't have a Coddington bear yet, but I have a friend that's kind of close to my Coddington. Does a lot of IT stuff for me. And by IT, I mean, like, when I think of a meme, I just tell him the premise, and he's usually able to come up with it. Anyway, he lives in St. Louis, and he's a bear. The kind of bear that mostly stays in their basement on the computer, but he's still a bear, but we'll drag him out eventually. And yeah, Beartaria, Missouri. It seems amazing so far. It's actually happening. And what else? Oh yeah, Owen has a big debate with Jim Bob tomorrow, because today is Tuesday, about the Trinity. And that is gonna be fun. Because it's like this. Imagine the Tower of Babel as a metaphor. Imagine language and the Tower of Babel are the same thing. The Tower of Babel is a metaphor for language. Language is trying to articulate reality up into ultimate reality. That's what language is trying to do. And the higher and higher you get, like we've learned, the more and more expensive and strenuous it is to get one brick from the bottom, which would be one conversation, subject matter, next word, next concept in the conversation, up to the top. Owen, in his live stream, is able to bring the subject matter of the conversation all the way up to the top of the tower of the firmament. Imagine the capstone of the Tower of Babel, the place where the tower and heaven meet, that final stone, the final connection. Imagine that that is the content of the Ark of the Covenant. What's inside the Ark of the Covenant? That final piece, that final bit of logos, that final logical, articulable concept that takes the whole tower, which is man's understanding of language itself, and connects it to the firmament. The subject of the Trinity, it might not be that exact capstone, the exact contents of the Ark of the Covenant. I won't go that far. But it's very close in subject. And I think, honestly, Owen's right on the money with his attitude towards it. It's almost like, can you get to heaven without the Trinity? Heaven being experiencing the true potential of existence. Can you experience that without the Trinity? I think so. Can you experience that without what the Trinity represents? No, you cannot, in my opinion. This leads to the question of, can you get to heaven without Jesus? And I think you can. But can you get to heaven without what Jesus represents? No, you can't. So it's just inescapable. All that to say is, this conversation about the Trinity is a high level conversation, and it's what needs to happen. And yeah, it's just a quickening of the material doctrine. It's like Owen was saying in one of the recent streams, it wasn't all about Trinity in the 80s and 90s. It was just all about, are you born again? And somehow, because materialists always need a material definition of their doctrine, of their ideology, so that they can say whether you are or are not a member of their group. It's all about being legally able to exclude people, is what it comes down to. And Owen made a great point about the Trinity maybe just being used to entice the Irish to become members of the parish and pay their tithes and get butts in the seats. And this absolutely makes sense. But you can't forget, what is this original Trinity that the Irish have been carrying with them in their culture? Like Owen's talked about, the moment of conception, when looked at with the microscope, if we can believe what we're seeing, it looks like a trinity of things. And even if the Irish were just carrying around this knowledge as a bit of fertility knowledge, it still has a lot to do with reality, and it's very potent. And is, at the end of the day, it's probably not the only description of the Trinity available. One of the best descriptions I've heard recently is, the Trinity is God, you, and the story happening between you two. The experience that you're having, you can't have without God. God made the experience you're having. But God can't make the experience you're having without you. That can't happen. You're a part of the equation. And God's a part of the equation. And the experience, it's not definable. That's what we're trying to define. So that's a Trinity in itself, is you, God, and the experience. You, God, and the story. Anyway. You get it, don't you, bros? That's all we got for today. Keep crushing.